Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause for the man himself, Sir Imtiaz Ali, renowned producer, writer, known for his remarkable work such as Rockstar, Jab We Met, and the recent Chamkila. Moderating this masterclass with Sir is Ma'am Supriya. Over to you, ma'am.
I asked them, what am I expected to say? What am I expected to do in the masterclass? And then they said, everything that you know about filmmaking, you just teach them. So we have a lot of time. Like, I have taken only 50 years to learn all that. I'm sure that we can do this in 15-20 minutes. How will people like it, and all of those thoughts enter when you start writing it, putting it on paper or on the computer now in this case. I think the most beautiful things about writing happens before you start writing, and that might take years. So if somebody asks me how many years has it taken for a film like Rockstar to be written or Highway to be written, then it's actually a very long time. But the practical writing time is short. But what is shortest is the shooting time. You know, so essentially filmmaking can be divided into three parts, as you guys must know. There is pre-production, there is production, and post-production. These are three different zones of work. They overlap in timing, but usually happen one after the other. And it is the production that takes the least amount of time. Pre-production, if you have to include writing in it, takes the most amount of time. So every film that I have made has gone through these three phases. Sometimes, like in a film like Rockstar, I've shot for many days because it was many locations. In some other films, like Highway, although there were many locations, I shot for fewer number of days. And in a film like Highway, I did not have the finished script. In a film like Chamkila, I had several drafts written before shooting. So I feel that one should make the film in the way that the film deserves to be made. Some films have to be very carefully structured before you shoot. Some films can be a bit and should be a bit free-rolling, although you feel very insecure that some of your pre-work is not done. But there is no pattern with which I can usually go.
Yeah, which number of screenplay drafts? Like, when do you feel like how many drafts average do you write for your film's screenplays? Like, concepts probably take time, but when you start the writing process, when do you think it's like ready to go, good to go in a planning stages and shooting stages?
In the meantime, I'll answer this. That usually what I write is like a novella. And I don't write the scene numbers. How many writers are present over here? How many people want to be writers? They can also lift their hands. Yeah, so you must have seen that there's something called final draft in which a lot of people write. I don't use it, but I think it's a very helpful product. So there are scene numbers, and then there are durations, which also sometimes writers write. So that's the structure of it. So you write it, and then when you want to make any change, you make that change in 30 seconds, but then you take another half an hour to change everything. You know, usually the scene number changes, the duration changes, the whole thing changes, right? So I try to keep it a little amorphous. I try to write it like a novel, so that if I'm changing, I don't have to change any number. There is no number yet. After I feel maybe one or two drafts of this I write. First draft, second draft, third draft also maybe. By this time it has already acquired the bulk of a screenplay. And then I start writing the scene numbers in it. And the scene numbers come into the screenplay, and then I write maybe one or two drafts of the screenplay. Here everything gets finalized. Interestingly, I write the songs in it also. The songs come in here. And then that gets done, and the screenplay is different. See, the screenplay and dialogue situation is unique to India. Because in India we write screenplay largely in English. And then you write the dialogue in the language you're making the film in, which in my case is Hindi. It could be anything for anybody. So the spoken line has to be written separately. I might be a very good screenplay writer, let's say, but I might not know the spoken language, which is Hindi or whatever, Nepali maybe. So if I don't know it, I hire somebody who's a Nepali or a Hindi dialogue writer. So after writing, let's say 3 versions of the screenplay, the dialogue is written, and that also goes through maybe 2 or 3 drafts. So these are the number of drafts that happen in a very smooth sailing, successful procedure of movie making.
And since you mentioned that you also write songs in your screenplay, maybe you can enlighten us about, how do you conceptualize and write the songs within the screenplay to the writers, because it's so unique to India, and you can't really read Hollywood screenplays and learn about adapting songs into the screenplay, but maybe from you we can understand it better.
Okay, so I'll give some examples. Let me give the example of Jab We Met. And many people have seen Jab We Met here? Yes. Okay, so in Jab We Met, let's say there's a song which is Ye Ishq Hai. Okay, now this, I'll tell you how it happened in the script. I'm writing this script. I don't know what's going to happen next. We have come to a point where Geet Dillon has said that I'm running away from my house because so and so person is coming and they want to get me married. And he says, how can you run away? Then what they will do? What will they do to me? So she says, you also come. Then he says that, but if I come with you, they'll think that we've run away. And she says, Tenu ki fark panda hai. You come, you don't have to come back here anymore. So he says, yeah, come, and they run away. But they run away. But he is actually going to leave her with her fiancé. Now, this is not something that he is going to tell her, but he's feeling not so good about it. He's feeling her loss. And how is he feeling her loss? By seeing her happiness. And she's feeling very, very happy, and we have to see her being very exuberant, and him feeling a bit of a fact that, oh, I'm not going to see this girl tomorrow. This cannot be spoken in dialogue. So how can it be expressed? It can be expressed in a song. And this is what we Indians do. We write a song that she is exuberant and she's so happy. Why is she being so happy? Because later on the boyfriend is going to reject her and she'll feel so bad because she's been so happy. And we will feel so bad because we've seen her being so happy. Right? So yes, all of this was necessary. And it could not have been written in any dialogue. Otherwise, let me give you an example of what dialogue it would have been. Like, there's a scene where Aditya is talking to Geet and saying, "To tum bahut khush ho aaj." And she's saying, "हाँ मैं आज बहुत खुश हूँ क्योंकि मैं अंशुमन से मिलने जा रही हूँ." And then we would have cut to Aditya's face, and the track would have gone, and some music of sadness would have happened. Then it wouldn't have been so good, right? So a song with exuberance. And then what can you do in that? You can also show the journey. You can show the terrain of the Himalayas. We had folk dancers of every province of Himachal Pradesh. And Saroj Khan, after her very long career as a dance director, got her first national award in that song. And notably, we had a very, very good dance group from TIPA, the Tibetan Institute of Performing Arts in Dharamsala. So these Tibetan boys and girls had come, they lived with us for weeks, and they were dancing. And then we got a certain art because the song was also like that. It was a bit like a different structured musical kind of a journey. So there is exuberance, we enjoyed it, and in very short time, in the space of 4 minutes, we communicated a lot. So songs are also used to bridge time, to bridge the gap of time, to crunch the duration. So this song I had written because all of these things had to be communicated.
So after the screenplay is ready and you're meeting the actors and things are in planning stages, how much room do you leave for improvisation with the actors, or open to what the actors bring on table, or even the locations for that matter?
No, one has to be 100% open. The way to be 100% open is to be 100% sure of the final effect of your scene. What is the feeling? Is the feeling getting better? Is the feeling of the scene getting better shooting in this location or in that location? If this location gives you the better feeling, then you choose this. If this actor gives you the better feeling of that scene or of that story or of that film, therefore, then you choose that actor. Every decision is based on this. And you have to be 100% open. But you can be open knowing that the responsibility of the choice is still yours. If an actor comes, or a cinematographer or anybody, and says that, hey, I have an idea, and they do it, whatever their idea is, and it doesn't work, the director does not have the privilege to go back and saying that, hey, it was not my idea, it was Shahid Kapoor's idea, or Karina's idea. No. You have, because you have to take the decision. Somebody can suggest. Somebody who is passing on the road can also suggest. The decision has to be the director's. That you have to know. And you have to be 100% open. Sometimes it is difficult to be 100% open, because you feel that what he's saying is good, but how do I bring it out? If what he's saying is good, but if I try to bring that change into my work, then what happens to the rest of it? Like, that shape I might not be able to control it. So usually when such a thing happens, you feel a little insecure. When a very good idea comes suggested by somebody to a director, the first feeling that the director gets is of insecurity. That shit, how do I handle this? Ye hai bahut acha, but how can I handle this? But to be open is a challenge over there, but you have to be 100% open. But also I'll say that when we say that actors improvise, we don't mean that actors improvise the script. The actor does not have the responsibility of writing the bloody script or giving the dialogue. Within the dialogue, saying what the actor has to say, he has to do it in different ways. And that is what improvisation is. This is a very, very big misnomer, and all people that are directors and writers over here need not be threatened by it. You don't expect your actor to come, otherwise the better writer is going to be the better actor, yeah? Because he's going to come up with great lines. That is not the case. If an actor is improvising very well with dialogue, etc., you should bring that person in and have him write the dialogue. The actor is somebody who receives the dialogue and then takes it and brings out many, many varieties of performance through it.
So I recently revisited Socha Na Tha, and I was, one of the first opening sequences or shots I saw was when Aisha Takya and Abhay Deol were in the bowling. They were bowling and they don't meet yet. They share the same space, but they don't meet. And the camera is sort of cut from different angles, from his perspective. But the characters are yet to meet. Yet we know that these are the protagonists. They cross, but it's done beautifully, and I mean a very indie way for that era. I was very curious to know, were those shots, repeated angles and cuts and zooms pre-planned, or did the editing guy sort of...
Well, in this case, I must say that the editing guy, who that time was Shirish Kunder. So Shirish was editing Sochanata, and then in between he said that I'm not going to edit it anymore. So you can switch it off while I'm talking. I think that's better. Yeah. So in between he left the project. So his assistant finished the film. However, this was his idea. I had shot this crossing from several sides. So that I thought that from one to the other side I will cut in the transition. But this whole idea of using one whole shot after the other was his idea.
And so, this whole concept of characters not meeting yet and timing becoming so important also was carried forward in Love Aajkal when Deepika Padukone and...
That's a very accurate observation. I must say that...
So refreshing, and honestly, I absolutely loved it. And I really wanted to touch this and know your thoughts and how did you sort of get this into the screenplay?
Nobody has ever mentioned it. Up till now, in so many years, so a round of applause for him. The fact that Saif's character and Deepika's character, Jay and Meera, they actually get into the same lift together in a mall, and they don't acknowledge each other because they don't know each other, and then they go away, go apart from each other, and life continues, and it is much later that they meet. In fact, when they do meet, Jay is trying to hit on Meera, but he doesn't remember that he's seen her, and she perhaps remembers that she has seen him, which betokens the fact that she is somebody who feels, attraction in a deeper way. But yes, it is a step forward from Sochanatha. In Sochanatha, they had crossed without even seeing each other, and that's how both the films have begun. So, and this is something that I personally liked a lot. These things I do for myself, and when somebody catches it 20 years later, it feels great.
That's what great directors bring in, right? Like the authors, that's your vision, bringing in cinema. So absolutely nice to see that. And your characters, they are in a relationship, but they don't realize they are in love yet. And the realization dawns upon them much later. And the characters are usually talking about eloping and escaping. So I'm curious to know what draws you towards these characters, and also if we could get to know your own emotional insecurities. You just recently shared with us, on set when somebody brings an idea, director gets. So maybe you can share some more anecdotes about that, and about the characters, what draws you towards them.
This thing of grass being greener on the other side, missing what you have lost, taking so much time on goodbyes, it is not something that I am bringing in. I think this is just the human condition. It is said that a city looks most beautiful in the light of a burning bridge. When you leave somebody, that person starts looking very, very dear. So that was the theme of, let's say, Love Aajkal. The entire Love Aajkal was based on this fact that am I coming close to you or going further away? And, mythology says this. Krishna and Radha always, Krishna had said this about Radha. The fact that she was furthest away from him is when she was near to him. And they always say near and dear ones, but usually near and dear sometimes is separate. And it's a paradox, and a lot of poets have written about it. And in fact, Rabindranath Tagore has written in criticism for it, that how silly is humanity, that you only want to cry for things that you have let pass. So this is not, I'm curious about it. I'm interested in this condition, and it's not as though I'm inventing it though. So I think in many movies of mine, this has come in. But also I realize sometimes that when you are closer, then you still feel a gap. Then you can come even closer. And you come closer and you feel, oh, we are not close enough yet. Then you come closer. And then you come closer, and this union never happens either. So everything is in the journey. So The great thing about life is that for every answer, the reverse is also true. For every yin, the yang is also true. So I don't, as far as my life is concerned, although I'm so happy to share every dirty secret of my life over here in this public space, but I think we shouldn't go there. As a director, the strange thing is that it feels as though everything that I'm showing in my film is my direct experience, but actually it is not. Because sometimes the experiences that you don't have get represented in cinema. The trains that you don't miss, the relationships that you don't break. You wonder what would have happened if I would have missed that train. And then you write a story. Yeah, it's not really only about your experiences, because when you have an experiences, that experience is complete in itself, and it is only incompleteness that makes a film, and it's a craving, or it's a question that you don't have the answer for. You don't have a feeling of completion for a certain thought or an emotion or a feeling. And then you want to write about it, you talk about it. And similarly, some people like me who are accursed with the desire to make movies, and most of you as well, make movies.
So like as a director, you're choosing film as a medium to express yourself, and I'm just like sharing something like from my life, so to know something about you. So when you're on your on sets, like one has insecurities, like it's not good enough, or maybe when the actors propose some lines and you feel that you can't say no to them yet, or whatever, certain things like that. And you're on set, you're trying to express something through films, your inner ideas, yet you can't express your own inner conflicts that you may have, and you have to be guarded in certain ways. Do you feel that, like from your first film to now, I'm sure 20 years you've grown as a director, but have you felt those kind of insecurities initially when you were shooting a film?
Actually, the space of a director in the shooting of a film is a very, very unique one. It is a very public space. The whole unit is looking at you when you're doing your work, but it's also a very private place. It is a place where you have to be 100% naked. You cannot have pretension. You have to be in a place actually where you are creatively open, mentally and emotionally open, and extremely vulnerable as well. At that point of time, actually I have seen myself go out of the boundary of my personal comfort. Go out of the boundary of, as you said, that I'm guarded. And everybody is guarded in life. But when I'm directing, I'm not. Anything can be spoken about. All the emotions of my life, everything is out there at my disposal to be used and consumed in the making of this one shot or this one scene. And the only good artists are those that also come with a similar mentality. If you come guarded, then it takes a lot of effort on the director's part to first break that wall and then work with you. The only thing that distinguishes a good writer from a mediocre one, or a good actor from a mediocre one, is this kind of brutal honesty. I might be vulnerable, I might be hurting over something. Incidentally, and usually, those are the things we want to talk about. And when you're talking about it, if you're guarded or lying, then what's the bloody point of making that film? Or telling that story or making that art, right? You in fact do it so that you get the chance. Cinema gives you opportunities which life does not. So I can be unguarded there, I can be naked over there, because I will not be judged. I'll say, hey, I'm just doing my job. Somebody writes the truth of their lives in a poem, and they'll say, oh, like this, you've written like this, so you're like this, and they can always turn around and say, hey, I'm just writing a poem, you know. This is not really a fact sheet. So you've got to be very, very open at that point of time. And I feel that for people that are guarded in life, they should do some art so that at least sometime they can be unguarded.
Okay. Since you deal with a lot of love relationships in your films, and in general in cinema we've seen a lot of love stories unveiled, and it's usually about, you know, two people falling in love, then something stops them from coming together, and then eventually they are united or not. And but what happens after that, the friction and the challenges that a couple may face, we often don't see that on cinema. I mean, one of the mainstream films comes to my mind is Satya, which tried to explore after people fall in love. Do you think, I mean, I don't want to blame movies as such, but just putting it like, movies have conditioned us to think about love as a full stop, to falling in love and not think about, you know, because movies have an impact on life and us. So, you know, to really think about love as just falling in love and not the friction and challenges that comes along. Are you thinking about pursuing this kind of love story in your future projects where you deal with people after uniting and what they can go through?
I'm sure that every person in the world is smart enough to know that truth exists beyond cinema also. They know that if we are showing that a certain, like, let's take the example of Dhurandhar. You know, the second part has released and hopefully it will do very well. And but we see it, we enjoy it, the whole nation saw the first part, everybody enjoyed it. But they don't behave like that in public because they are smart enough to know that is cinema, right? So similarly, when a love story is made in a certain way, people see it, they are smart enough to know that this is nice, this is something that I can aspire towards. But there is truth that exists beyond that also. Whether people will be interested to watch things that are just problems that they might themselves be dealing with is a big question. The answer mostly is no, they are not interested. It is seen, you know, we have this thing that why don't people in rural India see films that are based in rural India? You know, suppose I made a film which is based on the problems of a farmer, and it's a very slow film, a very boring film, because the life of that farmer is slow and boring. So all the people of this country, so many of them are farmers that are going through that drudgery every day. Why don't they watch it? They should watch it, no? They can relate to it. But it's not entertaining for them. Life is already giving them that. You have to give something special. Now, if you can make a film which is based on the drudgery of rural life, but you make it like a comedy, or you make it like a ghost story, then it can become a kantara. Then it can become something larger. People will still relate to it, but you want something interesting, because entertainment is something that we pay tax for. The tax that is cut in cinema is entertainment tax. By definition, you want to be entertained when you watch cinema. So I think that. However, like Satya was a huge experiment and a very successful one of how to make the post-marital problems interesting in cinema. But the fact that it is interesting in cinema is important. For instance, suppose, maybe not now, maybe a little later, you take a basic love story of two people meeting, falling in love, and then marrying and, let's say, having problems, right? Suppose this film is made in reverse. So two people having problems, then you cut to 2 weeks back. Lesser problems, 2 weeks back. Marriage, some time back. enjoying their love time, and then sometime back, the first time they met. This can be an interesting film, as long as you leave them with a happy ending.
This is what you also do in your screenplays, like jump in time a lot, like we go to and fro. Is that, I think that's like your, every film has like, you know, jumping in. Would you want to say like something about like not telling stories in a linear fashion and maybe non-linear screenplay writing maybe?
Well, I feel that human beings don't perceive life in a linear fashion. For instance, I'm sitting over here talking to you right now, but even in my conversation, I have not been linear, because I have jumped back to the time that I was making Sochana Tha. You have jumped back to the time that, you know, maybe the reference to Love Aajkal you made. So we are constantly going back and forth in time. The human brain doesn't process things in a linear fashion. Screenplays also therefore need not necessarily be linear. When you're writing, you can just surrender to the moment and write it in the way it is coming to you. Write it in the way that you think the story is progressing for the characters, and that should decide whether it is linear or not. Sometimes you feel that, like in Highway, almost nothing was non-linear, everything was linear, and in Rockstar or in Chamkila there was a lot of non-linearity. It's like I can, after making the film, I can think of some smart explanation and say, but actually it was the surrender of that moment that decided whether it will be a linear or a non-linear. You don't have to decide initially.
And after 20 years of filmmaking, how challenging is it getting for you to find new ways to tell love stories or stories, and where do you get your inspiration from?
Inspiration is always real life, the people that you meet. And when you come to interesting places like Gangtok and meet interesting people like yourselves, then hopefully many new stories will come to mind. In fact, the very reason of me being here is that. And we will know after a few years, when we jump into flashback, that it was this moment that it started. But inspiration is always people, real people in real life. And what gets added onto that is imagination of what would have happened after I stopped seeing that person. Or where was she coming from, or what would she have done next, and that kind of thing.
So initially I think you shot Sochana Tha on film stock, and after that
I shot in, you're asking very good questions, I must say.
Okay.
You're being a very good host. And we've already had a round of applause for you, so we won't repeat that. But film. The first film that I shot not on film was Highway. That is because we were rolling or exposing a lot. Film is costly and digital stock is not costly. You know, we thought we'll be running in the wild, we'll be traveling, and for maybe half an hour we'll keep the camera on, because literally we were traveling on streets where we'd never gone before. And we could anticipate that maybe as after we take this turn, we will get brilliant sunlight, you know, in the shot of the car. But it might not be a brilliant sunlight, because there might be another hill behind that, you know. So we were rolling, and then we thought that we will later decide what to keep. In many cases, in many cases like that. So Anil Mehta is the cinematographer of Highway. Anil and I decided, let's not shoot in film. Again, I was insecure, and he was insecure, because we didn't know how to not shoot in film. We only knew how to shoot in film. We didn't know what this digital technology was, and how will it all look. Will it look bad on the screen? Will it be able to hold up on screen? This is what we used to think. Like how people think of, if I shoot a film on, let's say, phone, and I project it on the screen, will it look good enough or will it pixelate? Will the image break? Those are the insecurities we had about digital technology that time. So we shot that on digital, and before that Anil did all the research possible, and good for him he did, because he got to know how to use digital technology, which gave him a big boost as a cinematographer in the coming years. Because lo and behold, after that I made a film called Tamasha, and in Tamasha we were shooting in film, but film ran out on us. The concept of shooting in film in Indian cinema ran out on us. We could not get enough film stock to finish shooting Tamasha on film. We had to go back and shoot some footage on digital and match the two. It happened so suddenly. So till Tamasha, pretty much, except for Highway, I've shot on film.
What do you prefer? After Highway, what do you prefer? Which movie?
Well, I would love to shoot a film on film where the film deserves it. I would like to have the flexibility that I had during Highway time and decide that this film I think we should shoot on digital, this film I should shoot on film or on a certain format of film, and so on and so forth.
What's your preferred aspect ratio?
I like cinema scope. I like the narrower, this frame I like. That's my favorite aspect ratio. Yeah, one is to 2.35.
And how do you work on staging and blocking with your actors? Do you follow the actors, a lot of directors do, or do you preconceive the staging and the blocking? And okay, first this.
Yeah, I preconceive the staging and the blocking, but I don't force the actors to follow them. I feel that the actors again should not have the responsibility of direction. They should be told what to do, but if something is naturally happening differently to them, then I try to take note of that and make the change, or tell the actors how to do it or how to think and approach differently to be able to do what I am saying. The good thing is that in this discussion, we learn a bit more about the scene and the motivation of the actor. You know, things that, because when I ask the actor to do something and it's not happening naturally, then I realize that, oh, maybe this actor has some concept in his mind which first I need to clear for the actor to do this. So, yeah, but I preconceive the staging and then I suggest the actors the staging. I always let them know that there is no compulsion, that they should flow and see whether this is happening right, or if it is not, then I'll make the change.
And do you usually rehearse with actors before shooting begins, or at the shoot date straight away?
Well, increasingly more and more I do rehearse. And rehearsal just could also mean reading and understanding. Nowadays we do that a lot. We do the reading a lot, and in many cases, and it started with, I think, Ranbir only. I remember in Tamasha we were rehearsing a lot before, like especially the Deepika and Ranbir scenes before shooting. And that's good. That I feel, if to nothing else, it's very helpful for directors to do that. Because if you have the benefit of going through a scene with the actors and then writing back what you might have learned into the scene before the actual shoot, then it enriches it. But one has to draw a line also, because over rehearsing also might kill it. Directors try to make it so pakka that nothing goes wrong on the final day of shoot. But in making it so pakka, sometimes the joy flies out of the window. You should keep that heartbeat alive also. So rehearse just right and then let it go. And suffer the insecurity that on the final day what will happen, you'll have to face it.
How many takes does it usually take on sets for you to get what you want?
No, there is no fixed number, but it could be one. In the last two films, it's been very little, one or two, 2, 3 max. Maybe utna bhi nahi hota hai. But in some films, it has been 7, 8. I remember in Love Aajkal, the first one, it was quite a lot. Sometimes 12, 13 on film. Film is costly. So 12, 13 takes. There was a shot of dancing and that took 34 takes. Sometimes 7, sometimes 8. It used to be like that. Even with Rockstar, we used to have 5, 6 takes. 5, 6, 7 takes sometimes. Sometimes 4. And strangely, this strange thing occurred to me that it was usually the second last take that was always okay. Because after knowing that okay, I've got the take, yeah, we had this habit not of safety. There's nothing called safety. If people that were making films were concerned about safety, they wouldn't be making films. But you get it, and then you say, "Acha, abhi to ab to ho gaya. Let's do one more just for the heck of it. Let's see what happens." Usually nothing great happens. But once in a while something very exceptional might happen.
So you've explored life of musicians in your 2 films. One is Rockstar and Chamkila. One is inspired by real life figure. And and they both have on stage presence. So how did the performance in terms of camera movements and rhythm and shots varied in capturing the essence of Rockstar's lead Ranbir Kapoor and in Chamkila with Diljit Dosanjh?
So I think the depiction of the musical artist was much more realistic and believable in Amar Singh Chamkila, and it was a bit dramatic and hyper poised in terms of Rockstar. Rockstar, the shooting of music was very different. We had playback singing, and Ranbir was miming on the music. Here, in Amar Singh Chamkila, when Diljit was singing, he was actually singing the song, and we were just covering it. The actual singing of Diljit is what you hear in the film. We have not changed it later in the songs that he is sung as Chamkila. So I think the coverage was very, very different. We were taking very, very single shot kind of takes for Chamkila, and we were taking multiple and very dynamic and very moody shots for Rockstar, where we were trying to get into the mind of the character. I saw Rockstar recently and I was amazed at how moody the film is. It's a trip. It's like made by a crazed director who within the song starts another song, and all kinds of crazy shit is happening in the film. That's because in a way it is inside the brain of Jordan, and that character is thinking like that, or his emotional upheaval is going on like that, quite needlessly. Many things in the film are like needless. And does he have so much angst? Against who is he protesting? What has anybody done wrong to this guy? There are no answers to it. Much like there are no answers to the big questions of life and character. But yeah, so the depiction was angst-ridden, emotion-ridden, hyper-dramatic, and very illogical in Rockstar, and very logical, practical, believable in Amar Singh Chamkila, because the character of Amar Singh Chamkila was there. And the character of Amar Singh Chamkila was very practical, and he was a realist, and he saw the world as it is. He had no pretension of any extra angst He's the person who should have had the bloody angst, having gone through the life that he's gone through. But he just was making the best of this opportunity. So we presented the musicality of Chamkila also like that.
And locations play such a important role in your films. I've seen so much of Delhi there, and then in a film like Highway, which is like a road film, I'm very curious to know, your process of selection of locations. How does it seep into storytelling? And then for a film like Highway, which is a travel film, and there's so much of roads that you're trying to capture, do you actually mark all the roads before you go on shoot, or is it spontaneous when you shoot? Please tell us about Reiki and everything.
Well, in terms of Highway, in Highway it was quite impromptu. We had an idea that we are going to shoot this part of the story in this area, but I did not know exactly what the location for a scene was going to be. I only discovered it when I reached it. And oftentimes we reached a place, I wrote the scene at night, the next day we shot. So every night I was writing, and the next day we were shooting the scenes. That's how it had gone. We had not done any recce. In fact, I had never been to Kinnaur, and we shot a lot of stuff in Kinnaur. I hadn't been on that trip. I had just made a mental map which we pursued. That was Highway. Highway was a certain type of making, and it was also quite experimental. We did not have lights except for in 2 locations where we called special lights. We didn't even have a trolley. We had a very, very, very small unit. We made it in a very inexpensive, very small budget. So, but usually that is not the case. Usually I go on the first recce, I select locations, then we go again, maybe 2-3 of us, the cinematographer included. Then after that, the whole, a larger unit comes in what we call the technical recce, and then we go to shoot. And then before the shoot also, one day before, I want to go to the location and see it one more time, because I know I'm going to come tomorrow and maybe there are more questions to answer. So there are repeated visits. And yes, I also write the location back into the script. So if I have a particular story and I feel that the nature of the story matches the nature of Sikkim, not Sikkim, which I haven't seen, but if I were to see it, then what I try to do is that I will write what I have seen in North Sikkim into the screenplay that I'll be writing. That's how it kind of fits.
In terms of collaboration with cinematographer, what's your process there? Like, do you do the short breakdowns in your head after selecting the locations and knowing the actors, and then go to cinematographer, or is it a joint collaboration between you and him?
No, just like with the actors, I do have a short breakdown in my mind very clearly, and I suggest it to the cinematographer. But I also tell the cinematographer that this is not binding, and if there is something better that they can suggest, I'll be very happy to follow it, because ultimately we are all working towards the same film. But the cinematographer does not again have the responsibility of doing the short breakdown, because that is, I believe, a director's job. And the cinematographer can definitely find gaps in the short breakdown or suggest certain things. The director might not know exactly what field is covered in a certain shot. The cinematographer might say that, hey, instead of this, if we do that, then it might be better. But for that, the cinematographer has to be a good editor in his head or her head.
So a little bit towards building funds and finance for the projects.
I'm glad that Mohit Chaudhary is here. He's going to...
No. Basic question from your starting from your first film again, jumping back in time. How did you raise funds, and how did you make it happen for all those who are trying to get the first projects out?
So there is this wonderful person called producer. The producer, we believe, is a person who has bags of money and who can give that money to us to make films. In fact, I've realized that a producer is actually that person who's even more poor than us. He has nothing of his own. He will go and ask the money from some other place. Okay? Now, but that is his headache. Right? So all of the wonderful producers that I have worked with, starting from Vijayta Films, that is Sunny Deol, and Ashtvinayak Films, Sajid Nadiadwala, Shah Rukh Khan, all of these wonderful producers, and now we are producers, Mohit and I. So I do the good job of like the creative work. Mohit just does Mohit is the bad cop. But that person organizes finance, basically organizes stuff. So as a young director, I was fortunate to find a producer who took that whole thing of getting the funds and so on and so forth, and I had to just write the script and I had to make the breakdown, and my assistants would tell the producer that we require to shoot for so many days and blah 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 is the list of my requirements, which all have to be costed, and all of that headache was not on my body. Similarly, for young filmmakers, I would suggest that if possible, find a producer who does this work for you, so that one can just concentrate on the work of direction, writing, all the creative and artistic work that one has to do, which in itself is a lot, and you don't have to worry about production. So I did many films before deciding to become a producer. Hopefully, I will be able to handle this little bit extra challenge, which then obviously I find people to relieve me from. But it is still going to be an extra challenge. But then if I've done 7 films, 8 films, then maybe I know a little bit about that as well and will be able to handle it. So my suggestion will be to find some producer who can do this. Failing which, you do it yourself and then you just roll with it. But you have to make sure that if you have not found a person who is a producer, then you have to find that aspect or that part of yourself that is the producer, and then you keep that person separate from the director in a way that each one of them should be honest to each other. You should not make a compromise on the creatives because of the producer, and you should not make a compromise on the production because of the creatives. You should be very truthful then.
After Sochana Tha, which didn't do very well at box office, but you've been consistent with your work, like, you know, you always managed to get your projects and work with such great actors. How challenging it has been, like, to get producers or, you know, finance for the rest of the works that you've built, like after Sochana Tha?
Well, there is always some or the other challenge. You bring challenges on because sometimes you want to make a certain film, and although you know, you are, let's say, a successful filmmaker, your previous films have done well, yet you want to make a film of a certain cost with a very young actor because the character of that film is very young. Right? Now, most young actors are not big stars because they are just starting out. That becomes a challenge for any director. So I think every film, even commercially, has posed some or the other challenge. Sometimes having a very big star is also a challenge, because then you have to, you know, deal with an audience which is much bigger perhaps than of the films that you have been making. So you've got to think perhaps differently for that, and that is a completely different dynamic. That is a different perspective of filmmaking. It is not just like telling a story truthfully. Then you have got to look at market and projection and things like that. So every film brings with itself a certain commercial challenge.
We open some questions from the audience. Anybody wants to ask? Many questions. Okay.
Is there somebody who can take the mic around, please? Any volunteer?
So, I'm Anmol, and I have traveled 300 kilometers from Nepal just to attend this workshop. I came yesterday. I am attending this workshop, and now tomorrow I will be going. So, first of all, I would like to.
Where have you come from? Kathmandu?
No, I am here, Italy, far more from Kathmandu.
Okay.
And first of all, I would like to wish you best of luck for. It's not that traumatizing like Leila Majnu. Because so my question is not really question, but I have noticed that in many of your films, your character, your main character, let's take an example from Geet from Jab We Met, Ranbir Kapoor in Tamasha and Rockstar, Shahrukh in Jab Harry Met Sejal. They are eating something in their sad phase or when they are lonely. So I've noticed that scene. So what's your take on that? Thank you.
I feel that every time that I've had to eat alone, I've felt very, very sad. Really, this is a truthful confession actually. Eating alone for me is very sad experience. I always, and many Indian people have this. You want someone to eat with, or you want someone to go to cinema with, you know. So अकेले खाना बड़ा दुखी लगता है मुझे. And I realized it after seeing my characters eating alone, because all these characters that you're saying are eating, they're eating alone and feeling very sad. They're probably even crying, like Kareena in Jab We Met, and Ranbir in Kun Faya Kun, Ranbir in Tamasha. Yeah, these are all sad points. Although Ranbir loves to eat alone, personally. So I said that, you're so lonely, you're desperate, you're sad, you're eating alone and feeling sad. But he said, sir, I feel very happy when I eat alone. I said, yeah, but that's what it is.
I have watched your movies like more than 50 times, like Tamasha, Jab We Met, Rockstar. Rockstar is kind of like very close to my heart, this movie. So I just wanted to ask you one question. Like, your movies are not just about love stories, but the journey of finding oneself. Like Ved, finding his true self, Jordan, knowing who he truly is and what he wants in his life, Veera, finding a new life in the nature, and Mahavir, finally getting to know himself. So your movies are actually a kind of self-reflection. So can you highlight something on this?
I think you have very beautifully highlighted it already. If you believe that that's how it is, it is. And actually, thanks for bringing that point. That's not a question, but it's an interesting observation that you have. Thank you.
So that वो खुद जाके चुपक जाता है. So that time she realizes, okay, why I'm hiding myself. That time I just really, मतलब अब वो लिखने के लिए क्या सोचा था? Do you have experienced that type of, मतलब have you met that type of girls or women? और मतलब ये कैसे लिख सकता है? क्योंकि खुद मतलब वो घर जाना है, actually उसको किडनैप किया है, but still she thinks that she has to hide herself. मतलब वो बहुत अच्छा लगा है कैसे, मतलब वो उसका मतलब पास्ट क्या है ये सोचने के लिए ना ऑडियंस को एक तो that I thought actually कैसे लिखा होगा. I have seen.
Yeah, I don't know myself. I also don't know. Like you were saying it, I was also thinking, yeah, she hides, yeah. How can she hide? Like this is something I've not seen anybody like this. But every one of us recognizes a tendency that we have inside ourselves to hide like that. And that is how I recognize it and I write it, and while writing it, I feel excited. And that is why you, while watching it, recognize it, that this is something that I have inside me and you feel excited.
A young filmmaker like me can pitch for a project. What are the steps?
I wish there was a clear-cut answer to that. What you need to do is to find out who is making the kind of film that you want to make, which is the producer again that is making the film that you want to make, and start approaching them. If you have any contact with the people in the film industry, try to reach to them. If your contact is not the one that can help you, through that contact, reach that person that might help you. Have a mental list. Do the calculation of who's most likely to collaborate with you and try to reach them. Sikkim. In fact, part of the reason of coming here, firstly, I'm very happy that Mohit and I got invited to come to this film festival. And really a round of applause for the ministry, for the Information and Public Relations Department of the government to host, under the leadership of the Chief Minister, such a wonderful film festival. You had asked me initially how the feeling is. It was magnificent in the red carpet, and the way, the stature, the wonderful, the beauty with which this film festival is being organized is very good. I met delegates from various parts of the country, south, north, east, west, and I think there are a lot of international participants as well. And I wish I could stay the entire duration. So congratulations to everybody who was involved in the film festival, in the organization. People must have worked very, very hard and will continue to do so for all these days. So I'm happy to be here. And the reason to come also was that I get to, make contacts over here with all of you actually. And have my first presence in this beautiful state called Sikkim, and hope to come back again, see more, and hopefully bring cinema shooting over here. And also get a chance to work with the local talent, be in the creative field or in the infrastructural field, but to work with local people here, because in the excuse of making a film, I'll also learn some deeper and more significant lessons from such a wonderful mix of people.